And once again, another reboot from our side. My name is Leo, I'm from Hubraum, and I'm moderating today's talk on finding funding in Berlin. And I'll keep it short because we've started one or two times now, and we'll skip right into the introduction of the person sitting left to me, which is Florian, Investment Director for Hubraum. He will give us a short intro of who he is and what he does at Hubraum.
Sure, thanks Leo, thanks for having me. So for those of you who don't know, Hubraum is the incubator of Deutsche Telekom. So we try to be kind of like a portal for startups that want to be introduced to Deutsche Telekom. Deutsche Telekom is by now one of the largest telco operators worldwide, and we offer a lot of opportunities to work together with us. How do we do this specifically? So we have our residence program where you can work from our facilities, for example, in Berlin. You can have your office here, you can send people here, work together with people from Deutsche Telekom, and really kickstart your partnership and your collaboration. That's kind of like the first part. The second, more intensive part of what we are doing are incubation programs. So we are running several programs a year. For example, right now, together with Unreal, a mixed reality program. We are doing a 5G consumer entertainment program. And also a 5G campus network, so for B2B application program. And for these programs, we basically scout the best startups worldwide that have created a real innovation in those areas. And we work together with them intensely, both on-site and virtual, over several months in joint business opportunities, doing prototyping together, using the platforms of Deutsche Telekom to bring those innovations to potential customers. And the third part of what we're doing at Hubraum is what I'm most focused on. We have our own dedicated investment fund, and we work as an early stage strategic co-investor. So that means we are looking for startups where we have the interest to build a long-term relationship. So sometimes these are companies who start in our residency programs or in the incubation programs, and then we also provide money to kind of like take the next steps. And we always do this as a co-investor together with someone else, like the IBB, for example, who is already a good partner for us in several investments we did together. By now, we have a portfolio of around 30 companies worldwide. So we're not doing this only in Germany or Europe. We have recently a new investment in Israel. We had something last year in Korea. So really worldwide. Looking for worldwide opportunities here. Just some examples that are well known from our portfolio. We invested in Blinkist many years ago, which is kind of like one of the more prominent startups in Berlin nowadays. Also companies like Teraki, Contiamo have really made good progress with us over the last few years. Me personally, I've been doing this now for 7 years, since 2013 when I joined as an investment manager. Actually, I had my own startup experiences before, so founded or co-founded 3 startups, also VC financed, was able to exit one of them, and then somehow switched over to the corporate venturing side, and now heading our team of 4 people based here in Berlin, in Krakow, and in Tel Aviv, where we're looking for the next Hubraum investments.
Perfect. Sounds like a very interesting range of startups that Hubraum is looking into, and very cool experience that you have seen both perspectives, or both of the VC and the company seeking funding. Let's go over to Artsiom, one chair further away.
Yeah.
You as representative for IBB have worked with Hubraum together on some occasions, I hear. So maybe introduce yourself. What does IBB do, and what is your role?
Yeah, so my name is Artsiom Zhavarankau. I'm the key account manager, and I'm part of the IBB since 2013. And I have the function to be part of the Berlin economy. So our major function as a business development bank in Berlin is to support the economic situation in the city, but also from the historical point of view to build up the city as well. So for the real estate part, the more interesting thing for you is for sure our business development part. So in how far could we help young companies to grow or to find the right financing. And as Florian already said, I think Blinkist was also part of the IBB portfolio as well. So we have also a subsidiary which is called IBB Bet, and it's also a VC who invests like in the same way as Florian introduced as well. But in my function as a key account manager, I'm not an investment manager. My major is to talk with startups, but also established companies, and to find the right solutions or the right ways to the public funding programs. So there are a lot of public funding programs also with certain regulations, and my function is to talk to the companies to find out which financial needs they have and how far this needs fit to the portfolio of the IBB or to other public companies or public fundings, and also to introduce the whole network and to help the companies to find the right way to finance themselves.
Okay. Perfect, thank you very much. And now already having Berlin in discussion and sitting here in Hubraum, Berlin's campus, right in the middle kind of the city, if you wish so. And Berlin being, especially over the last years, really always in talk and in discussion with as a startup ecosystem, and especially looking at venture capital. I think just lately I read in a startup monitor that in 2019 more than 3 billion euros of venture capital were raised here in the city by startups, especially fintech startups who are most prominent. So I want you guys to comment on this and to get your intake on Berlin as a founding landscape, as a founding ecosystem, maybe even in comparison to Germany, Europe, or other European countries. However, whatever you like. So
start. You are the more professional on that point.
So I really have to say that I somehow witnessed at least part of the development here in Berlin. I'm originally from Munich and then moved here to Berlin 7 years or 6 years ago, actually, and it's really interesting how that has developed in the last few years. I think what's really extraordinary about Berlin is that it has become kind of like a melting pot. What you always said about New York, like in the 80s or 90s, that at least for Europe, but maybe even broader, Berlin has become this melting pot of being a really interesting city where people like to move to work, to start something new. And it's not something extraordinary, but more or less standard that you find international founder teams here, where people are coming from very different countries and kind of decide that Berlin is the best place for all of them to come together to create their startup. I think that this has a lot to do with what Berlin experienced in the past, but also there are still some I think advantages in comparison to other cities, maybe even in Germany. For Germany in general, obviously, we still have a quite strong existing old economy, so to say. That obviously creates a lot of opportunities, right? If you look, especially in B2B, if you want to become a supplier of an existing company, you have companies here who are very innovative in their fields and looking for new stuff that they can work with. So this is obviously an advantage, I guess, in all over Germany. Especially in Berlin, I like that Berlin is not really focused on one specific industry. It doesn't depend on it. You mentioned now that nowadays we are always talking about fintech, maybe like AI and IoT was kind of also a topic of the last few years. When I came here 6-7 years ago, it was still all about Rocket Internet and the Sunbus and Zalando, and so completely a B2C area. And maybe, we already see this now with kind of Tesla moving here to Berlin. There could be a huge opportunity even in mobility in these kind of industries. So there's no only one single shot basically you have here, and also as a city we only have this only one topic, and if it works out it's great, and if not we have a problem. It's kind of a whole range of opportunities. With this, I mean, Berlin has a good infrastructure by now, I guess, both of like investors, VCs, public funding, service industries, if you want to find like lawyers, tax advisors, even like PR agencies who know how to work with startups. I think this is all here by now. What still is missing, also to maybe say something about this, I think even if in Germany a lot of the financing and money is focused now on Berlin, I think in comparison, not only to the US, but also to London, for example, it's still on a relatively low level. And especially, I mean, this concerns private funding, but also kind of like public funding or at least public incentives. So if we talk about tax breaks and this kind of stuff, this is still something where we have a hard time here. And I think this is what we could benefit from if there would be more.
Yeah, I think this is, you said everything, and I have to think about what I could add to your opinion, because
it's always easier to go first.
Cherry picking. All right, so I think in general it's a very lively ecosystem, and as you said, in the last years the city changed a lot, and it's a very fast-growing city as I see it. Also from the people's point of view, it's a young city. That's why I think it's not an average German city. Also from the point of view of the economic situation around the city. So here, a lot of young people are moving to Berlin from each point of the world, and I think the best evidence is that we are talking in English today, because mostly the startup community is forcing to talk in this language to find the right people to work with, and in general, I think Berlin has a very structured, let me say, structured ecosystem. So, as Florian mentioned, there are a lot of consultants, a lot of people who can help you to find the right way to move forward, to find the right people to connect with, and to see for the opportunities and to catch them. And in general, I think that each of these topics, not only IoT or AI or blockchain or something else, are representing this city. I think in general it's more the way of living, even for younger people, which works so attractive on the startup community here. And I think that Berlin will grow in the next years, also from the economic part. And of course, we have a big focus on service, on the service part of the economy. But to my mind, it's like cities exist, and in general, I think that also IBB is trying to find the right solutions to support the economic growth. For example, with our program like Gründungsbonus, where we are trying, so it's a kind of startup bonus, so we try to support even pre-seed companies as a part funding, to help them to develop MVPs before you present your product to a seed investor. And I hope that the ecosystem will grow in the next years as well. That I have a lot to do with my job as a key account, and I hope also for new trends. And I'm very where's the right word? Gespannt.
Excited.
Excited. I'm very excited. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. And now that you've already brought these entrepreneurs and young founders to a discussion, I want to switch up the perspective, and I bet there will be a lot of you in the audience who are at the stage of starting up your idea or looking to already find pre-seed, seed, or Series A investing and investments. And I think we have the most experienced speakers here to to address this topic, and therefore I would want to ask the round here, the two of you, what your advice for these young entrepreneurs and founders on getting funding could be, and what mistakes they should avoid.
Should I go first this time?
Yeah, I could. So in general, I'm not a VC manager, so I could also speak from the other part, also from the public part, because I always see that there were a lot of opportunities in the past for younger companies by using these programs, but a lot of startups missed it. So there's always a big focus on VC funding and to find the right way of financing using VC tools. Of course, it's a very spectacular tool, and you can also use it, of course. But nevertheless, there are also some, let me say, some parts of financing you could use by choosing public programs also. So, for example, grants which could help you to hedge your first round, for example. From this point of view, it's important for me to say that don't forget public funding. It could help you to get more liquidity for the first steps and to step forward, to move forward. So, of course, we have also VC in our house, and as a co-investor, it's always sensible to talk to people, to investors, and to get some feedback about your business model, and to find the right investors for you. That's why I think it's also important to look for other possibilities, because not every startup is made for VC funding. That's also a very, very important point. There are also other possibilities to finance yourself, and my main point is also prepare your startup for the coming up situation. So. The business model is not the only thing you have to think about. You have to think about your team, the way of how you want to grow, the way how you want to finance yourself also for the next years. And this part of the business administration is very, very important. That's my advice. Think about the economic part, the growing part of the company, and everything will be fine, I think.
Perfect, thanks a lot. Florian, what's your take?
So I really like what you mentioned, that actually there's a lot of discussion in these rounds as well, that your question was also in that direction. It's all about VC financing. Basically, VC financing is only a tool of maybe like 1 or 2% of all the companies that are founded each year, right? And I think this is something that as a founder you should ask yourself and discuss it with your co-founders especially. Are you really the type of company who is able to attract and profit from VC funding in the long term? And what I always like to ask is basically, are you sure that you want to lead like €100 million company in 5 years from now? And think about what that means, right? Because that's basically kind of like the minimal threshold you are looking at if you want to become a successful VC finance startups, right? VCs are not looking for someone who is doing a few million in revenue and a few 100K in profit and has like a dozen people, right? You're looking at a 100 million plus company. Think about all that tension, the pressure, like how you need to work in such an organization with hierarchies, with management, with all this kind of stuff. So is your idea actually the right one to build a company in that area? And are you personally actually willing also to make all the sacrifices to build such a company? And I think there's a lot of like opportunity for smaller companies, for like innovation in other areas where you are not looking then for VC financing. You could look for a corporate partner. You could look for like a private investor who is more in a partner situation, kind of like a joint venture scenario. You could look for public funding. I think there are many other opportunities. Obviously, still, if you have decided that you have the right company to go for VC financing. I think there are a few like mistakes that I see like all the time basically. Think really hard about who you give shares to, right? So I mean that's kind of like the basic principle. You get money, you give shares, right? But I see so many companies who actually gave way too many shares or percentage point in their companies in the first pre-seed or seed rounds for maybe too much money, right? I mean, your valuation will be low at the beginning. Obviously, if you're trying to get like a few 100K, that will cost you a lot of your company's equity. But you need this equity actually because you're going through several rounds. And so I would basically start by obviously doing as much bootstrapping as you can, right? So obviously everything where you don't need external money is the best. Also public funding, again, if you're coming out of university, you look for exist funding, for example, which just pays your, which pays you something like a salary over the first 2 years, I guess, or something,
up to 2
right?
years.
So these are great opportunities. And then as a next step, if you look for external financing, look for experts in your field, right? Don't go out there generically looking for money, but basically if you have something really great, then someone who knows about this stuff and your topic and your industry is obviously really interested also in investing in you. And also again here in Berlin, there's a great scene now of business angels from all different kinds of industries. Talk to them. Don't look for the big money there, right? But for the first, I don't know, 5,000 euros here, 10,000 euros there, and you could do this step by step, right? Maybe also do this as like convertibles, so you're not talking about valuations already. Give them a nice discount. You not only get the money, get the insight in the industry, you have a sparring partner. So I would use this as a first step if you need external money. And then really, if you do your first bigger rounds, look for partners that can go all the way with you, right? So look for investors who are able to finance you not only in the seed round, but also at least co-finance you in a Series A or even Series B, because looking for new external money without having commitment basically from existing shareholders is always extremely difficult. And again, to come to my starting point, really be like greedy about the equity in your company. Again, I see so many companies who've wasted basically 60-70% of their shares and gave them to investors even before they are on a growth path. Right? So obviously you're going to develop your product, you're going to pivot it, you need more product development, you need a lot of money, yes, I understand, but in the end, if you have given away already such a huge part of your company, you will not get the money you really need then to go on a growth path and really sell your product. So really be greedy about this.
To that point, I have also one more thing to add. Be greedy about the investment. It's also the main point why I added this point about public funding. So after you, for example, closed a seed financing, you have also the opportunity to hedge this investment with public funding, for example. If you are looking for a research or development programs on the public funding point, you can also apply for it and attract more money to have more liquidity until the next round, until you need new money and have to give up your shares. So think about it and try to attract so much money as you can and be greedy. I think that's a very important point because at the beginning you're not thinking about it, but at some stage it makes a lot of difficulties. I already had some experiences in the last few years where even in the growth part it wasn't able to finance a company in that way how it would be most attractive, not only for the company but also for the growth. But because of the situation on the cap table, it wasn't able to find the right financing. So there are a lot of difficulties as well if we're not that greedy as Florian described.
Perfect. So both of you gave a really good insight on how to go for investments and what to look after and what maybe to avoid. Now looking at or zooming in actually into today and maybe yesterday, the last weeks and months, all of us were kind of dealing and are still dealing with this very new situation of crisis, basically, to say so. And now it would be very interesting to know how much and in which way these approaches of seeking funding are now affected in a time of crisis.
So interestingly enough, so far so good, I would say, right? So honestly, to me personally, a little bit surprising, surprisingly good. I expected actually to be much worse. I don't think we are over it yet, right? So I think there is a lot of long-term implications of what's going on right now that we can't really fathom right now. But if we look at the market now, we are doing the same amount, maybe even more investments than we did the last years. I see the same from other investors. There's still a lot of money in the market. So there are still new funds that are being raised. There are a lot of funds who are sitting on a lot of dry powder, basically, and looking for investment opportunities. Obviously, the topics might have changed a little bit. Everything that is remote work now is really, attractive now. But in general, it's not like a situation where it's more difficult to raise money than before this whole thing. Then, in addition, we have all these public matching facilities now, basically driven here in Berlin. There's also, basically in every state in Germany, there's kind of a matching facility that in addition to private investment provides public investments on an equal basis, which is very attractive. But again, let's see how it works out long term. I would definitely recommend all startups to look for a long runway in terms of money, right? So if you're raising now, put on top 6 extra months or whatever in your plan, because in the end you are part of a larger system and of a larger economic system. So if even if there might not be problems in your specific areas, if there are problems in other industries, old economy, etc., this can impact you in the months that are still coming.
I think that's a very important point, that the impact in the economy isn't really touching the moment. So we see a lot of confusing situations also on the market side. So there are also some things which I can't really interpret it from the point of view that I can say, all right, we're in a recession and it's a crisis, and we have a lot of problems also in the economy itself. But from another part, we see there's a lot of money, a lot of private money. All the central banks are doing its best to flood the markets with money. And I think it's also important for the startups not to be sales too cheap. So it's also the talk the part you already talked about the greed in the investment. You have to know your price, obviously, and on the other hand, what is also important is, in this situation, think about your business model itself. So I think if you are in this crisis and maybe your part of business is not really triggered by the crisis, it could be so, as Florian already said. So the whole economic system is damaged a little bit. Let me say a little bit, but it could be bigger, and the damage could be bigger, and nobody knows. So pay attention on the development in the ecosystem, but also the whole economy and the old economy as well, and try to be all right. I need a word. Vorsichtig.
Careful, cautious.
Careful, yeah, careful.
Perfect. Okay. So I think we've gotten some really good and interesting comments here from both of you on the three sort of guiding questions for today. And now that we've talked a lot, I want to give the voice or the speech to the audience and encourage you to enter any questions that you might have into our chat right below the live stream. Feel free to type up anything. We have some more minutes to get into your questions, and we would be happy to answer any of them. I'm gonna look down on the screen to check if there's anything coming in right there. So I'm seeing one question where the interest is raised to Florian specifically. What sort of your intelligence, or in other words, I will read it out, maybe that's better. So basically, what you've now known and learned working for a corporate fund that you didn't know, or that maybe you wouldn't know today if you were still building startups.
Quite a bit, I guess. Like exactly stuff like I said before about structuring financing round. I mean, this is not like public knowledge, right? I mean, if you haven't done this 3, 4, 5 times, you simply don't know what the standard is, right? And I guess this is, I mean, like as a founder and as an entrepreneur, I mean, you need a very high amount of self-confidence, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't do it, but try to access people who have this experience, right? And basically who can tell you what the standard is, right? In terms of valuation, in terms of structuring around, in terms of how to approach people. Because I think it's always a good way to think about it in 2 ways. I think you need something as a startup where you are extremely extraordinary, right? Where you really have your USP, you are really unique, this is what you're known for. But all the rest, you should be pretty standard, right? So you can really focus on what makes you really good. And if you try to come up with something like complicated investment structure and something investors have never seen or whatever, it's like 100 times more difficult than if you just fit into certain blueprints. And these blueprints are not secrets per se, but you need to access people who have experienced them and know them. And this is what I would recommend to myself, to do this even more. And again, I think if you are in a city like in Berlin, you find a lot of people who have this experience already. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions, right? I mean, also to people you want something from. So also, if you talk to investors that where you want to have the money, start by asking them for advice, right? There's like this famous saying, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. If you think about it, that's like absolutely true, right? And you can start building a relationship with someone you want to have as an investor by just asking them stupid questions, right? Without anything in behind and already saying that, like, where's the check or whatever. No, just ask how he likes to do things and learn from it.
Very valid point. Okay, I'm getting another question from the audience directed at you, Artsiom. So we want to know, the viewer want to know if the IBB offers any special programs, Corona programs during this crisis to help out startups. Is there something you offer?
Yeah, in general, there are a lot of Corona special programs. As you maybe also read in the press, there are support programs from the first day. So we started with a loan program, and then there were a lot of different grant programs. And now it's Corona 6, I think, where we have also this matching facility opportunity for investors to give more public money into the coming financing round. But in general, the startups have to declare that they had problems caused by the crisis. For example, if they were near to a closing round and because of Corona it wasn't possible, they could also take part on this startup support. It's a part of a bigger thing. It's called Startup Schutzschild, which was I think made in March, April by the Bund. And there is also a bigger matching facility managed by the KfW Capital, so by the bigger business development bank of whole Germany. And the IBB is the institution which managed this second part, this public fund. And there are different things you can apply for. Also, more established startups which exist longer than 3 years can apply for mezzanine, for example, and at least there is a small part for startups which have no connection to VCs or other investors, which you could also ask for at the IBB bet, so our VC part.
Perfect. Okay. And I got one really interesting question from a young innovator out there that is sort of directed to both of you, and he or she is asking if right now is a good time to start up, to found your idea, and also to look for financing. And then a follow-up question from the same person is, when do you really know when the right timing is for getting into financing, finding investors? Florian, we want to begin.
So, I think in general, it's actually a really good time, right? If you look at the macro situation, I think now it's a time to start a company, right? It might not be a good time to have a running company, maybe in the next few months. Let's see. Let's hope that it works out quite well. But I think always when I not want to talk about a recession now, because we don't have one right now at least. But if you look back, actually, that after the new market crisis in 2000, 2002, 2003 was a really interesting time to start a startup. If you look at vintages of startups in funds, those are the best performing startups. The same after the financial crisis in 07, right? 08, 09, really good startup that has been founded there. Stuff gets cheaper, right? You get you have access to a labor market, maybe, because people think, oh, my job at Telekom or BMW is not so secure as I thought before, right? Maybe I should join a startup now. So there's a lot of good reason actually to make the first baby steps in a situation where the rest of the economy is actually not so good. And this in combination with that the financing situation, as I mentioned before, is still quite good, much better actually than in 03 or 08 after the last crises. It's a good time. On a personal or individual level, you should start a company when you are convinced that you can make it. Right? There's no good or bad time for it. Really think about what you want to achieve. Have a picture in your head what is your scenario in 5, maybe even 10 years from now. And if this is something which you're really satisfied with, and which you really think this is something that you want to have and you want to achieve it, and you know what the next steps are, then just go for it.
I think that the most important thing is your personal feeling and your self-confidence about the business model. So in general, if you see that your business model has a lot of potential in the market, and it's a growing market, let's do this right now, in this moment, because I think that the economy crisis now is more dangerous for, let me say, the zombified economical part. So for the old business models, for the business models which have to take a lot of loans to finance themselves and to reorganize their structure. And that's the moment where the business models from innovative young companies have the best chances to grow, to achieve money, to achieve the right people to work with, and to approach the and to find the right solutions for the market, and also to enter maybe a fast-growing part of the market.
That sounds very valuable. I will take this home and start right now. No, really, thanks a lot for the insights. I think we are sort of rounding up here as we've taken some time to discuss funding in Berlin in 2020, and I think I had a good time at least, and I think I hope my speakers here left to me had a good time as well. And thanks a lot for you in the audience to address those questions and to have listened to us for 45 minutes now. And so we're rounding this up. I'm encouraging you once again to take part in our survey. So hit the like button. No, look into the description, and you will find the survey link there. We'll just take basically 1 minute. It's three questions, and this would help us a lot to improve for the future. And next time, I think with a good technical setup, I think, and a new interesting topic, and hopefully some more interesting speakers on the stage, we will continue Hubraum on air, get to the next level. So thanks for joining in. Have a nice afternoon, and see you next time.